I know it's...
Oh, I think it's the... So cute. It's the Popiah charging station.
Hello everyone and welcome back to a brand new episode of Heart to Heart Talk. After several months of diving deep into my personal self-work and healing journey, I'm excited to return with a truly special guest. So today I'm bringing my personal life savior, I call it, and coach Sheena. And she has been the guiding light during my darkest moment last year, giving me so much warmth and brightness like a sun. I will never forget when you tell me that I'm like a dusted diamond waiting to shine. And that's where this podcast is just an idea, and her affirmations really make me do some actions. And that's why you're here today. So Sheena is not only a leadership and relationship coach, but also an inspiring entrepreneur who manages her own coaching business. So she's a fun-loving parent to a lively toddler and one coming up. And it's my absolute privilege to have her here in this podcast episode. So welcome, Sheena.
Thank you for your very lovely and kind words. It still makes me uncomfortable.
It takes me a lot of effort.
Yeah, but you give me all that credit, but really a lot of credit goes to yourself for the work you've done and the growth you've made. And I'm so proud that this is becoming a reality. Yeah.
It's like talking to my shifu. But she always gives me the full credit. So how have you been? I mean, it's only been a week since I've met you.
Yes. I've been very busy being pregnant. I love being a mom, but being pregnant, not so much because of the discomfort that comes with it. But
I know.
It's been going well, and still actively coaching and doing things that lights me up.
That's really nice. Every time I see you, I remember when I met you last week, I wore a yellow shirt.
Yes.
Because I say, when I choose the shirt to wear that day, you're like the sun for me. So I make sure that I wear yellow.
Cute. Yes, yellow is my color. It's my favorite color, truly.
Right? It's in your profile picture.
That's right.
So let's go way back when you even first started your coaching business. Actually, what inspired you to take this leap of faith into entrepreneurship? Because I see you as a life coach or my own coach, but you are an entrepreneur yourself, running your own business. So what makes you take this leap of faith?
It's actually an unexpected turn, actually. But I think we have to go way back. From when I was a child, I remember being quite different from my peers, and I've always been very invested and interested in reading self-help books, even as a primary school student.
Yes.
Do you remember the chicken soup series?
Oh my gosh, you read everything.
Yes, I was like kind of gobbling them, and it's just interesting, and I'm just very intrigued by how the human experience can look and feel and sound like. And I remember during PSLE, oh god, that's such a long time ago, right? And the examiner asked, what do you want to do when you grow up? My response, I didn't even know what I was thinking, but I said, I want to be a psychologist because, yes, but do I really know what that meant? I'm not sure.
Probably you know that's something got to do with like your mind and heart and how
it
humans
just came
work.
out.
Right.
Right?
That's amazing. I don't think I knew that at PSLE age.
That's right. But I didn't know what to do after O-levels. I did accountancy. I did a whole bunch of stuff.
Accountancy? Oh,
Yes.
that's very different from psychology.
I know. It's just a practical, pragmatic Singaporean thing to do.
Right. You get a stable job.
That's right.
From it. Yes.
That's right. And when I... sort of like COVID, it was during COVID. Before COVID, I had an opportunity to work with a coach myself. And I remember being in a conversation for the first time and being just shell-shocked by how powerful it was. I'm like, it's like I feel like my head was just flying back, just blown away by
all the tears coming out.
That's right. And I'm like, wow, what sorcery is that? What skill is that? I want to have it. But I didn't really actively think about it or pursue it. And then COVID happened, the lockdown happened.
It's such a tough period.
That's right, it was tough. One day I just woke up and I looked to my husband and I said, I'm going to formally pursue coaching. And he looked at me like, where is this coming from? I'm like, I have no idea.
It's been boiling inside for a really long time.
That's right. And it was cooked. It was cooked. So I signed up for the course the very next day. And it wasn't my intention to be an entrepreneur or to start my own practice or to make a business out of it. But it really just came from a desire to want to make a difference. And so that got me started, and I've just been incredibly blessed on this journey.
It sounded like, I mean, from my sessions with you, it's always full of wisdom and affirmations, and really, really, I learned so much. It doesn't feel like you only started during COVID. And personally, even though it was like during COVID, I could sense that this journey goes way back. And right now, I believe it's a few years into your journey. What challenges have you faced so far that you feel that he has really propelled you in this, I would say, entrepreneurship journey and coaching journey?
I think as an entrepreneur, especially when I first started out, also as a new coach, there's a lot of self-doubt, isn't it?
Right.
I'm sure you're very familiar with it.
And yours come both ways, right? Also, in terms of coaching practice and
that's right. It's
running
like,
your business.
Yeah, and I was very concerned about whether this is going to be worth it. Am I really making an impact? And back then when I started, my toddler was, I think he was barely 1 year old.
Oh,
that's
that
right.
age.
That's right. And it can be a struggle, you know,
Yes.
as we navigate motherhood. And I'm sure you know, the time spent here could have been time spent with my son.
Yes.
How do I decide if this is all worth it?
Being present
That's right.
for him.
Yeah, so that there were a lot of internal struggles, and I think the self-doubt is one of the biggest one. It's like, am I good enough? Really? Am I good enough? How will I ever know, right?
Yes.
So
what makes you feel that, you're actually good at it and you're good enough? Like, even...
That's right. And I think it brings me to the point of realization that this inner work we do, this self-work, this deep work that we do just never end. Because as I explore that fear of like, am I good enough? It's really not just about my skill as a coach or my business, but it's something that runs deeper.
So it sounds like three things. You as a coach, you as an entrepreneur running a business, and you yourself as a person.
That's right. And that is
that's
fundamental, right?
Yes.
It's fundamental to everything else.
So from what I hear, you really, really have a lot of good experiences and even different perspectives because of the different modalities you have been trained, be it in psychotherapy or like trauma-informed, and all these things piece up to you. What do you think that it has influenced in terms of your approach to coaching and connecting with your clients by knowing different knowledge, I would say?
Yeah. I think one of the things that really informs my work comes from my learning of myself, right? So I started by sharing with you on how curious I am with how people think, and particularly how I think. Because as a child, I was highly sensitive. I had a lot of complex emotions and thoughts that I struggled to understand. And as I, when I was on a journey on working on myself, I realized that, I came across this model that really resonated with me.
Right.
And till today, I think it informs my practice a whole lot. So if you think about it, it's really simple model. It's just a triangle with 3 layers, right? And that is one way to look at an entire human being, the whole person.
Wow.
Okay. So at the top, it's the visible parts of us.
That means what you can see as a person.
That's right. So it's behaviors that you know of yourself, your patterns, right, that you're aware of. And at the second level, it's what they call the underlying drivers.
Right.
So what drives your behaviors, right? And these are things like our aspirations, our motivations, our values, some life experiences, mental models, and even like expectations from the society.
Yes.
Right? So that... And these 2 layers, we kind of know them. Kind of, yes. Kind of, right?
We think we know, but
we
didn't
we
know. We know through coaching sessions.
That's right. And it's just more awareness, right?
Yeah.
But really what I also realized that is primarily for me the most important layer is the third layer, the base layer, which is, the unknown root causes.
I
Okay?
see.
So you think about life experiences you had, but are driving you at an unconscious level.
All the subconscious
That's right.
that we have.
Yes, it could be perhaps how we were brought up as children,
Right.
the culture that exists in our family systems, trauma, big
Yes.
trauma, little traumas, right? And all of that really makes us who we are today,
Yes.
right? So I think it's just an appreciation and understanding that the person before me or even myself, we are not as simple as we seem to be.
Yeah. We thought we
Right.
are.
We think.
But we
think,
couldn't
right?
understand some things that happened. So I really remember that time when I was under a really severe burnout phase, I would say. And day in, day out, I'm like just really having high anxiety and panic attack. And that's where I first get to know you. And when I sat down with you, I remember it was full of tears, just nothing but tears, and you were listening. And what came up from it was that realization of it being a burnout. That's one. In the first place, we do not know that that's actually a burnout, right? And we just function day to day like any normal people. Then when you came to realize you are not really functioning well, and then you realize why is it not there? Yeah, and you gave me that homework. I remember it was so intense of like the next 5 consecutive days. Okay, it's like a mutual challenge, right? Next 5 consecutive days to carve out at least 3 hours for myself. And that was so tough at that time because my calendars are packed, every single hour is like for something. And you asked me, I mean, I can counter proposed, but I think it was exactly what I needed. Yeah. And tell me, how do someone recognize the warning signs of a burnout and probably to even start navigating it?
Yes. And I think we are observing this phenomenon, so to speak, more and more, in the people around
Yes.
us, right? So burnout is a really interesting topic, and I think it is only but a symptom, right? And what is driving the symptom? The causes of burnout can be many.
Right.
So it really takes a lot of curiosity, towards ourselves to understand really what is causing this. For example, for some people, it could be just sheer boredom. I'm disengaged. I'm so disengaged, I'm burning out.
Oh,
It does appear quite a lot in the sessions I have with clients.
Interesting.
Right? Or when they experience a severe misalignment between their personal values and the thing that they are doing.
right. For example, their work or their career.
Yes. So there is such a misalignment that they feel like, this is not working for me. And it really, burnout is a state of being overwhelmed, if you think about it.
So it can be overwhelmed by anything.
Yeah. And we have to figure out what is that thing that is driving that burnout, right? And I think one of the most common causes that I notice in my practice is where people are burnout because they are working too hard to perhaps prove themselves to someone
Yep.
or trying to kind of like make it, and they just get lost in that process of doing so. And as we explore deeper, it really goes back to deeper roots, like I mentioned to
Yes.
you, with the 3 layers.
I personally got to give credit to you for making me be aware. I mean, or rather allowing myself to have that safe space for me to be aware of all these underlying emotions that has been like stemming out, not from just on the surface of like anger or frustration. It's more stemming out from things like certain childhood trauma or like inner child issue and things like that. So with that level of awareness, I'm able to connect with myself like so much better.
That's right.
Yeah. So I would say, thinking back on how I start the journey in coaching with you, I remember asking you a very upright question like, Sheena, do I need to go for coaching or do I need a therapist?
Yes.
And there you actually sent me a very clear explanation of what are the different helping professionals. So what does a coach does, what does a therapist does. So what do you think when someone is also in a juncture like me?
Yes.
Of course, in the end, I find a lot of help through complementing this tool. by having coaching sessions and also visiting a therapist to help with my anxiety and stress while we work on personal growth and deep dive into my own self. But I think that having these two in tandem works well for me, but I wouldn't say it's for everyone. But of course, people may be curious, right? I know I needed help, but who do I seek it from? Is it from a coach, or do I go to therapy, or do I go to what kind of therapy, So maybe you can sort of like let us have an idea, where do we seek for when, we needed that help.
Wow. The answer in my head is a really long one. Let's see.
Summarize it. Are we going to spend another 2 hours?
That's right. I think first of all...
A more direct and upright, I would say, identification of
That's
certain
right.
signs.
Yeah. I think first of all, we live in a really privileged time. Where we have
Definitely.
so many kinds of support around us, and the line, well, this is my personal opinion, the line between coaching and therapy can be a little blurred at times, and I'll explain why. So if you look at coaching and the formal definition of what that is about, it is really about engaging clients in a thought-provoking and creative process with a focus on maximizing personal and professional growth and development. Right. So it's like clean, that's that, right? And the traditional definition of therapy is that it helps people explore perhaps their personal history and past to understand and the root causes to, the struggles that they experience and to unburden, those things, right? But in today's world, there are many other specialized training that therapists do go for. So therapists now are getting trained in coaching.
Yeah.
And coaches are getting trained in different therapeutic modalities, right? So I think it's very important for people out there to know that just because someone calls themselves a coach does not make them the same as another coach.
Right. How do you define that?
Right? Because not all coaches are the same. Their training is different.
Yes.
The certifications they've gotten is different.
Yes.
And the kind of coaching they do can be quite different if you get to experience it.
Right.
Right?
No wonder, like I've also heard that some of them have, I would say, not very pleasant experience. It's not because it's a bad coach or bad therapist. It's just that they have not met the right one.
Yeah, chemistry is important.
Yes, the synergy and being on certain same frequency, I would say, definitely help.
But there is really an important difference. Back to your question about how do people decide, right? So there's something that's very clear that is specific to therapists that I wouldn't recommend someone to go see a coach for. So that's when perhaps they are really experiencing a clinically significant disturbance to their well-being. Okay, so
like
for
depressive
example,
mood.
yes, like extreme depressive moods. It's not just low moods that they can bounce back from.
Yes.
But it's like they can't function. They're really in bed, like I can't do anything. I can't get out of bed.
I remember you asked me just one question on this, and you asked me out of 7 days, how many days am I functioning and how many days am I not functioning? And at that point, it was quite hard. I was like, oh man, it was 5 out of 7 days, so it's quite a lot. And then I came to realize that, I think I really needed also to seek help from a therapist.
That's right.
But understanding it from just a simple question like this, like asking yourself through the week, what are the number of days you are really functioning and not functioning? It's very powerful.
Yes.
Which we often don't care.
That's
don't
right.
care about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To what degree is it affecting my ability to live life on a day-to-day basis,
Yes.
right? So a therapist is able to diagnose, and treat and diagnose mental illnesses and more severe mental health related disorders.
Yeah.
So as a coach, we don't treat or diagnose any of that. But, like I mentioned, there are still coaches with specialized skills that can support clients who are having some mental health-related challenges, but still high functioning.
Right.
Yes, so that is kind of like the difference, I would say.
For me, I think in a very layman term, it's when I felt really very crippled by anxiety and stress, and it just like I couldn't function in terms of knowing that I need to get all this done, but I can't do anything. And that's where I know, okay, I really need, while at the same time working with you as a coach allows me to slowly increase my baseline, I call that, because I remember you drew a diagram and it goes like, now it's maybe here and our goal is to increase it so that we have that capacity to live a more fulfilling life.
That's right.
Yeah, so I would say you must have faced so many clients on a day-to-day basis, and I'm always so curious, like, you hear all of our stories, work with us through our traumas and struggles. Like, that session could be so intense with tears and like all that happening. But because you are a coach, you are very much maxed up in your schedule. I always faster choke your slot, right, when it's out. But how do you even struggle with maintaining this emotional balance when you're doing this coaching with different individuals? Like, there are so many stories, and I'm always amazed, how do you listen to all these stories and still like, be fresh and new for the next client or the next person? How do you do that? Like, I'm really curious.
Yeah, that's a really great question. And I struggled with that a lot when I was first starting out as a coach, just because simply I feel a lot for people. And I find myself taking
you said you
all
were
that.
highly sensitive, and
Yes.
definitely you feel what your client feels as well.
Exactly. And
Yes.
after a while, I realized that that's not sustainable. I'm too invested and involved in my client's struggle that I pretty much took them as my own. And then so I started talking to mentors, right? And my coaches and my therapists. And I realized that what I really needed was a way of being present, but in a way that is caring towards myself, right? So it's kind of hard to explain, but I mentally, emotionally, and just at a soul level know that this is about you. This is not about me. And I'm here to create that space for you. I'm with you, but I'm not you.
Yes.
Right? And to actually also develop rituals and routines to let that all go. So for me, it could be taking a long walk, after having a couple of sessions or in between sessions, or just breathe.
I remember you tell me that I asked you this in one of the sessions, and then you said, I'm just gonna drink a cup of tea and and
And let that go, yeah. And acknowledge the impact it has on me or how I feel towards what I heard. But then again, remind myself that that is not my story.
It comes to me when just now you mentioned on being caring to yourself, and self-compassion is definitely one of the key insights I take away in the sessions with you. So how do you, I would say, make people realize that, self-compassion is actually one of the core thing, or rather key factor, that we mostly overlook?
Yeah, that's a beautiful question. I think as human beings, we are really our harshest and biggest critic. And we often don't realize it because it comes on at such a unconscious level, right? Where we get into self-blaming and self-judgment. And being compassionate towards oneself for me is to just simply acknowledge what you're feeling right now.
Acknowledge what you're feeling
right
now.
It is valid.
In this present.
That whatever I'm feeling, it is valid.
Yes.
Right? And to just be, because we're so habitually into this, habitually pushing our feelings away just because they feel intense, uncomfortable, and then, all of that. So having an awareness helps bring up compassion. And when there is compassion, we get to be curious, like, why am I impacted this way? What is really going on? What is driving this feeling that is overwhelming me a little bit? And even just acknowledge that I'm overwhelmed right now.
I guess for us, especially when we are working and we are in this phase of like parenting and everything else, we always think that we want to just charge forward. And everything else doesn't matter. Like, I'm feeling stressed today. It's okay. It's just part and parcel of life and everything else. And it was one of the sessions that was truly very enlightening for me. Was through the session, I was aware that I'm constantly saying sorry when I cry, for example. I was telling, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cry. And repeatedly you tell me, why do I need to feel sorry? And it's okay to be present, to be in tears, to even feel sad, or feel frustrated, or even allow yourself to feel angry. And I think honestly, in more of the local and Asian culture, we are brought up quite, I would say, different but very similar upbringing in some sense, whereby crying is a form of weakness. Why are we angry? We cannot be angry, stress. This is not stress. I'm like more stressed than you, our parents or grandparents will feel they have it much tougher than us. But I would say every generation has their own tough things to fight, with different era and especially internet and all that. And to even be aware of that feeling is what truly trigger all these changes for me. Like, even most recently last week, I could sit in with myself and I feel like, why do I feel a bit sad? Then there's this like heaviness inside my chest. But then at the same time, I realized that I've came a long way to even know that I feel sad. Because most of the time when I feel sad, I feel like I'm not allowed to feel sad. Yeah, it's okay. It's really small thing. Why are you sad about this small thing? So when you say about self-compassion, it really just, I hope more people could really be more compassionate and kind to themselves. Not in terms of like, buying presents and like gifts for themselves, but it's more of just simply acknowledging being present in their feelings at this moment.
That's right. We're so good at minimizing our pain and minimizing our feelings, and and you've rightly pointed out that it's got a lot to do with how we were brought up as children. And because many of us grew up in traditional Asian families, I don't want to stereotype, but we're familiar with that notion, right? That big feelings are not okay. Children are meant to be seen but not be heard. So go to your room, right? Until you're not angry anymore.
I think it's becoming so much more like a mirror when you have your own toddler and kid, and every day you look at him and goes like, so this is what it is. Like, I've never thought that I might have a different way of approaching, example, anger. And that really took me on a different level in how I want to parent my toddler. It's quite against a lot of norms, I would say, and it takes a lot of courage for parents nowadays to want to go in the more non-violent, non-forceful kind of direction. Positive, be it gentle, you call it. There's many terms to this parenting style. I remember I was just sharing with you about some things that happened in my son, and he was being very angry, and he was like, I'm very angry. He's very angry. And there you go, sharing with me about your toddler. That's 3 years old then, like half a year back.
2.5,
2.5, 3. He's so emotionally aware, and of course kudos to you being his mom, I would say, to even allow him to have that space to feel what he feels. And I remember you saying about asking him what color is his heart. And I think it's so powerful, because only at this age of say 32 right now, like for me, I started to identify what is the color in my heart at this present moment. Is it red, so angry, or am I feeling yellow? So when I start to practice that with him, interestingly, when I asked him what is his color, he would tell me, and I would tell him what's mine. And that is like a two-way, I would say, awareness there. And it's amazing. So coming from a parent's standpoint, this is really just a side tip and advice. How would you think that parents could also allow their kids to be more emotionally aware? And at the same time, the adult themselves. Because it has to come from the adult to be aware so that their kid can be. If not, there's no point talking about how they feel, what's their emotions.
That's right. And it's really about the importance of being attuned, right, to the emotions that we experience, and then develop the capacity to be with what could feel very uncomfortable. Because if we can't sit with our own emotions, we can't sit with our toddler's emotion.
Oh,
It will totally
true.
activate and trigger us in so many different ways, right?
And that trigger is usually not from the toddler. It could be things that happen in the day that
yes.
that behavior just, made us trigger at that point of time and like
Yes.
lash things out or say unkind words.
That's right. Yeah.
Right. So it's just for parents to really still be aware of themselves first.
Yeah, what's going on inside of you?
Yes.
When you see your toddler acting up or throwing a tantrum, which is totally developmentally appropriate, how do you feel? What sensation are you noticing? Do you? Some parents immediately talk about the contraction. They feel the body tensing up, or they feel their quickened heart rates, and they're just having flushed cheeks because they're raging. And just kind of being aware of that, and not trying to reject it, and taking time for yourself to acknowledge it with compassion just really helps them be more present with what is happening. And then they can be with their child in a different way, right? And I think supporting children through very difficult and intense emotions it is possible for anyone to do, but it will take a lot of practice.
The metaphor that came to me was really be as calm as the sea.
Yes.
When it's not having big waves. So we
That's
just have to like be
right.
calm.
Yeah, and know
it
that
works.
waves are normal.
Yeah.
Waves will pass.
Oh, I like
right?
that.
And
Yes.
then there are questions that we can ask, because what we want to do is to let children know that no emotions are bad.
So for example, right now, that your kid is telling you that he's angry, he wants to hit you.
Yes, it happens. He's turning 4 and it happens still.
How does he describe that feeling?
Yeah, so with all children, they get upset when they can't get what they want.
Yeah.
And they cannot get what they want all the time, right? So just the other day, he was just kind of kicking and pushing, and we were at a family party. So it's loud and very stimulating, right? He was overly stimulated. So I picked him up and I said that, you know what, let's go to a quiet place. It looks like you need a break right now. So we went to the room, and he immediately wanted to kind of like physically, like engage
Hit
with
you.
me. Yeah.
He wants to like, gonna
like,
hit mommy.
"Ah!"
Gonna hit you.
I'm gonna hit you, And immediately I asked, and this is not his first time hearing me say that, right? My first question is, what's happening in your body right now?
Now, he's at a different level, I must say.
Yes.
He has a heightened...
He has 2 years of practice, right?
Yes.
But the 4-year-old child, immediately upon receiving that question, just paused. And then he said, it's volcano. It's red. It's in my chest. No, it's also on your wall. It's in my feet. The lava is flowing out, And he was so
intense.
connected
Yes.
with his internal experience.
Right.
And I just listened to him, and my next question, and it's my usual follow-up question, and I said, what is it trying to tell you?
Wow.
Pretty much like how we coach adults, isn't it?
Yes.
Right.
And sometimes we don't even have that answer because we have never searched it ourselves.
That's right. But we want them to go
Yes.
inwards.
Right.
Because science and research has been telling us that if we suppress our emotions, it's just going to increase the stress and the intensity of the emotions that we're feeling.
Yeah.
It doesn't help to say, don't feel it. Be good. Go
So
outside.
he really need to be like the volcano lava. Let it flow everything out and he'll feel better.
Well, he did that. And then we talk about, what is it needing from you? What is it wanting from you? What is it saying to you?
Wow, that's really, really deep.
Yes. And we were in the room for 15 minutes. And by the time he went out, he was totally ready to engage.
Right. I think really it's like holding space for him.
That's right.
But in a safe space so he doesn't hurt himself.
Yes. To just be fully received without judgment and to be witnessed as who you are is a very powerful experience.
Rather than typically be like, oh, don't cry,
Yes.
Yeah, why are you angry? Let's not cry, and it's very weak to cry or things like that. And I think immediately I could imagine the conditioning we had, or rather most of Asian culture families they had, was that showing this as a sign of weakness in some sense. And that's why growing up we kind of really suppressed a lot of emotions and feelings.
Yeah.
And I remember over time, it didn't really come out to me as something that's not normal because I thought it is normal that way. Yeah. And it
Yes.
came to realize, wow, the connection between your head and your body, like literally like this, it's so important because we are mostly functioning on the brain conscious.
Absolutely. We live here.
Yeah, we lived here. So we're supposed to live like here, connected throughout.
That's right.
And interestingly, we talk about adult and child. And often, I remember you saying that we often, toggle or switch between adult and child consciousness. How does that
Wow.
really mean? What does that really mean?
Yeah. Well, okay, so I think essentially my personal take is that we are all wounded in some ways in our childhood. And it doesn't mean that we have to go through domestic violence or to experience a loss of a parent. And those are big traumas. And obviously they impact a person and the development. But it could be as seemingly minor as not having our needs met, and I mean emotional needs, or there are feelings that we feel as a child is not fully received by our caregivers. These can have very big impact on a child's growth and development,
Right.
causing psychological and emotional wounds that we experience.
Which we didn't know.
Which we didn't
didn't
know,
know.
right?
Yeah.
Because as children, our focus is on maintaining the attachment relationships with our parents and to survive, right? So we then develop adaptive survival strategies,
Oh,
right? So
makes
for
sense.
example, if I say no and I'm going to be rejected, then I'm not going to say anything. I'm just going to go with it.
So it has been like be in you really. Like that's how your response usually will
right.
be like.
That's right. And they're forsaking their authenticity as a child. That I'm going to abandon my own needs
So
and
that
desires.
moment is that child consciousness.
Right. And child consciousness is the level where we operate, where we are using our adaptive survival strategies to survive, which was essential in childhood during those moments.
Right.
But many of us continue to operate at that level in adulthood.
Even when we grow up. Yes.
That's right. Even when it's not necessary anymore.
Right. And I think going to the deep work and diving deep to yourself really can make all this become aware. Like it can surface from the deep sea.
That's right.
So that you can catch yourself in that instant, whether or
Yes.
not it is something that is a child conscious level.
Yes.
Or is it truly about the current
That's
situation
right.
that's
So
happening?
think about the iPhones that we are all using, or most of us are using.
The
that operating systems gets to be upgraded,
Oh, I like this metaphor.
right?
Yeah.
And as an adult,
Yeah.
because we can sometimes still be very much stuck in time for various
We're still in
reasons.
the Windows 95.
No, you probably know the latest iOS,
Oh, yes.
That's right. And so being connected to our adult consciousness
Allows
is
that
about,
update.
That's right. And that's about reclaiming our sense of agency
Right.
and reclaiming that connection to ourselves again.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I guess right now, wow, there's so much things that I know if we dive deep into each topic, it's like gonna be one episode each, right? But I would like to really, really bring it to the point on emotion.
Yes.
Because I remember I was truly in a very tough conflict with my husband. And that conflict may not be immediate. It may be like a build up
Yes.
over time, and you have that wall in between, you're saying harsh words to each other, and everything you do is triggering, to each other. I'm sure most married couples go through this. And when I had a session with you, I know clearly that I wanted to connect with my own partner, my own husband, but I don't know how. And when you gave me that very powerful statement of saying what is an emotion, I'm really blown. And you said that beneath every emotion, beneath every behavior is an emotion, right? And underneath each emotion is an unmet need.
Yeah.
And that itself was like, wow, I wouldn't know that emotion is actually just that part, and below it is actually driven by all the unmet needs that we didn't meet, I would say, along the way. And that itself is truly, that awareness itself is enough to make me understand. Perhaps at the end of the day, married couples have the same unmet needs, be it communicating or trust or things like that. So how do you actually work through with your clients, especially if they are like husbands and wife. I'm saying myself, no, I'm saying, yeah, but I know you keep really strong confidentiality on each individual.
Yes.
But today I come to Sheena, and my husband also come to Sheena. We all work on different things, but how do you really see couples thrive with connecting with themselves and their emotions?
That's right. Marriage is tough. Being a married person, I can say that. Because we don't just come in as who we are now. We come into a union, a marriage with our personal history, with our wounds, with all of that, right? So in the couples work that we do, it's really helpful for us to engage with the individuals in that marriage. So the husband and the wife separately. And obviously we don't take sides.
Yes,
but
that's
it's
the most
really
important.
about helping the person process his or her unique experience. And then it is a sacred space where that married person gets to hear himself or herself clearly.
Because you get to say things out.
That's right. You get to process it. So as a coach, we are the thinking partners, right? We created space for that. And like you said, things are often not what it seems. So they come in and focusing on a behavior that really
like
upsets
anger
them.
And like nasty words and rudeness. And
yes,
all that.
it can be anything at all. It could be as simple as the trash is not taken out on time. And it can be such a huge thing, right? But it's not about the trash.
So you really unpacked and go down to the layers.
That's right. And then we explore what is the emotion here. Emotions are signals, right? What is it trying to signal to this person? What are the values that are being stepped over, right? And ultimately, what is the need, the desire that is unmet or unfulfilled?
It could be really simple as well. For example, daily communication.
Yes.
Like, for me and my husband, it would be like, we came to a conclusion of, after that very, very much needed conversation. And we said that we're just going to try one thing. We're going to give each other a hug. Morning and night, that's it. I don't care. Is it in front of our son or not in front of our son? If I forget, you remind. If you forget, I remind, and we're just gonna make it happen. And this is one thing. And I think it's amazing because it was really like the first time we communicated with so much depth and connection. And nothing about you. And I remember I'm really writing what I should say because I'm very afraid that I say the wrong thing and then the whole conversation just go wow. So I really drafted like, okay, I want to come from the place of me, myself, how I observe the behavioral changes in myself and what I realized was my unmet need.
Yes.
And also when you've mentioned that powerful statement of inviting your partner to also share what is their unmet need, I think that truly is the most transformative part of the conversation.
That's right.
Yeah, because most of the time we just talk about ourselves. Everything we talk about ourselves, right? and that become the hardest because you need to really just unpeel yourself like an onion, like peel away the layers and then go to the core and address it from the place of vulnerability.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. This is why working with a coach or a therapist can be so helpful because we are blind to our blindness.
Yeah.
Right? We don't know that we're blind in some areas.
Yes.
And, so kudos to you too and your husband.
Yeah, every time there's like a aha moment in our sessions, I'll be like, so this is how I really, really feel. Yeah, you know what, Sheena? It's really, really interesting because I would never expect that I get to touch on so many different pillars, from parenting to marriage to personal development in this short podcast. Yes. But I'm glad we did because I think it's too much information out there sometimes that on personal development is one whole book. And then on parenting, it's like, so many parenting advices. When sometimes it could really start and stem out from very simple awareness, simple questions, and just simple understanding on yourself. Yes. Not too complex, not too deep yet. Yeah, and to be really breaking the taboo of like visiting a therapist it means you're very ill or you're unfit. In fact, I feel that I definitely think you would agree that most people should have a therapist contact and a coach contact. So when I meet my friends around, I always say, please, Sheena, okay, have a therapist. I would like send to them, and then like in case you need it, they are there.
That's right.
And you're not alone. That's what I truly feel it can help others.
Yes.
And I'd like to really thank you because this is such of your precious time. It's like 2 times of coaching session here. And before I end off, I would just like to ask you on a more light-hearted question. We are on a topic of comfort, right?
Yes.
What is your favorite comfort food?
Ooh, I'm a real foodie. Every kind of food gives me comfort.
Are you sure there's no favorite?
Well, but I think growing up, it's really thinking about my late grandmother and my mom till today. She loves making soup. And Chinese
so
boiled,
it's not because you're
double
my
boiled soup.
right, Chinese soup,
Yes.
home cooked soup.
That I don't actually, it's not my go-to outside, but it's always a taste of home.
Right, I get that. It's that
Yes.
comfort feeling you get.
That's right.
And that is exactly why we are gonna treat you to your choice of soup later. But just to wrap up everything, after talking with you so much, how would you describe your coaching and entrepreneur journey in 2 or 3 words?
Wow.
I mean, I know you're very good at expanding things. Now you have to concise things to 2 to 3 words.
Well, let's see. How would I describe?
Or maybe individual words, like 2 or 3 words.
I think the first word that comes to mind is growth,
Growth.
right? That I've grown so much just kind of being with my clients as well. And that as I grow, the kind of work that I do, also I see the benefits that it kind of, it translates to my clients' outcomes. Because the deeper I go, the deeper I'm able to bring my client.
Right. So growth is one.
Growth is one. Hope.
That's right.
I think this work is about reconnecting people to hope and that you can hope.
Right.
That
I think it's
things
really
can
powerful.
change, right? You can heal, you can grow, things can change.
Mine was at a point that I felt it was hopeless. And I'm truly grateful that at this point, I feel hopeful.
Yes.
Yeah, and it's powerful. Is that a third word?
Well, I'm just going to settle with 2.
Okay, growth and hope. So thank you very much. And now I think for Sheena, her sharing and her stories really, really touch many, many lives. And I just want to give credit to all that you have done, especially even when you're pregnant and you're still doing your sessions so intensively. I really wished you for the best of your pregnancy. And hopefully we get to see a cute little... It's a girl?
Yes, it's a girl.
And now we're going to have time for our soup. Yeah, we are going to have the... What do you choose, actually?
I think it's mushroom soup.
Super shroomy.
Yes, super shroomy.
Yeah, and I have always choose shroomy for my podcast.
Oh, is that your
Yes.
favorite?
I've always choose shroomy. And then my team was telling me that I need to choose something different. So I also think it's time for a change. So today I'm choosing a different one, which is clam chowder.
Oh.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Wow, it's so
Right.
pretty.
And this is for you.
Thank
your
you.
spoon.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, yay.
It's hot.
We're gonna before that, I'm gonna give you a gift as well.
Okay.
We got our teas collection.
I'm so ready to eat, right?
Right. What is that you choose as well? I know it's
I think it's so cute. It's the Popiah charging
Yes,
station.
and we've got a little sticker pack for you. So
It
you
comes
can
with stickers.
Yeah. So
Oh,
I think the charging
wow.
station look exactly like this charger. Yay!
Thank you
You
so
can wear it
much.
as a casual tee or like if you're going out.
Come, let's
yeah,
cheers.
yeah.
Ah! Wow.
Yeah. Is it nice?
Mmm.
Well, this mic can have the ASMR thing, so we like.
Mushroom is the best.
Oh really?
Yeah.
You like mushroom so much.
Yes,
What's your
yes.
second choice?
When I order Souperstar, because we do, my son loves the sesame chicken popiah.
Oh really?
It helps him eat his vegetables.
How I wish my son likes that so that he can eat the vegetables.
That's right.
I should try. I've never tried that actually with my son.
Yes.
Thanks for the tip.
Yes, thank you so much.